Every person you've ever trusted would betray you under the right conditions. Not because they're evil, because they're human. Think about it. How many times have you seen good people justify terrible actions when their survival was threatened? How many times have you watched someone's principles evaporate the moment the stakes got high enough? You've been taught that humans are fundamentally good, that civilization has evolved us beyond our primal instincts, that most people, deep down, will do the right thing. This lie has cost you more power than any failure or mistake ever could. 500 years ago, Niccolo Machiavelli documented the single most important truth about human nature, truth so dark that society has spent centuries trying to bury it. In the next 20 minutes, I'll reveal what he discovered by observing the most powerful men of the Renaissance. And more importantly, how you can use this knowledge to never be blindsided by human nature again. In 1513, Machiavelli sat in exile, stripped of his position, tortured by the new regime, watching everything he'd built crumble. Most men would have descended into bitterness or self-pity. Instead, he did something remarkable. He studied power with the cold precision of a scientist dissecting a corpse. The Prince wasn't written as philosophy, it was a field manual. Every page documented patterns Machiavelli observed in the courts of Florence, Rome, and France. He watched princes rise and fall. He saw allies become enemies overnight. He witnessed good men destroyed by their own virtue and ruthless men crowned as heroes. And he recognized something that changed the trajectory of Western thought forever. Human beings don't operate on the principles they claim to value. They operate on the principles that ensure their survival and advancement. Now, here's what makes this uncomfortable. You already know this is true. You've seen it. When companies talk about family culture right before massive layoffs. When friends promise loyalty but disappear when association with you becomes inconvenient. When people preach morality in public and practice brutality in private, you've witnessed the gap between what humans say and what humans do. But society has conditioned you to ignore this gap, to believe in the exception rather than the rule, to think that your friends, your colleagues, your partners are different. This conditioning isn't accidental, it's a control mechanism. Because people who understand human nature can't be manipulated by appeals to fairness, reciprocity, or shared values. Machiavelli understood something else that modern self-help gurus desperately try to obscure. There is no moral arc of the universe. History doesn't reward the virtuous. It rewards those who understand the game and play it without apology. The Renaissance princes who followed conventional morality were overthrown. The ones who embraced Machiavelli's principles built dynasties. This is the knowledge gap that separates the powerful from the powerless. Not intelligence, not work ethic, not even opportunity. Understanding versus ignorance about what humans actually are beneath the social performance. In this video, we're going to examine 4 brutal truths about human nature that Machiavelli documented. Each one will make you uncomfortable. Each one will contradict something you were taught to believe. And each one will give you a tactical advantage that most people will never possess because they lack the courage to see reality clearly. But there's something you need to understand before we continue. This isn't about becoming cynical or paranoid. It's about removing the blindfold. You can't navigate power dynamics if you're operating on false assumptions about human motivation. Every disadvantage you've experienced, every betrayal that blindsided you, every time you've been outmaneuvered, it happened because someone understood these principles and you didn't. The first truth is the foundation. Everything else builds on, and it's the one that people resist most violently. Principle 1. Men are more prone to forget the death of their father than the loss of their inheritance. Machiavelli didn't write this to be provocative. He wrote it because he'd watched it happen repeatedly. Sons who wept at their father's funeral were scheming over the estate before the body was cold. Partners who praised fallen leaders were positioning themselves for succession before the memorial. And the grief was real. The ambition was just more powerful. Here's the psychological mechanism at work. Humans feel emotions, but they make decisions based on material consequences. You can trigger someone's sentiment, their nostalgia, their sense of obligation. But when those emotions conflict with their immediate survival or advancement, the emotions lose. Every single time. This isn't because people are shallow, it's because your brain is designed for survival, not consistency. When your ancestors faced threats, the ones who prioritized abstract principles over concrete resources died out. The ones who prioritized survival over sentiment passed on their genes. You are the descendant of the ruthlessly practical, not the nobly principled. Let me show you how this plays out in modern context. A tech company founder builds a startup with his college roommate. They're not just business partners, they're brothers. 10 years of shared struggle, living on ramen, believing in the vision when nobody else did. The company finally breaks through. Valuation hits $100 million. Then a private equity firm makes an offer, but only if they restructure leadership. The roommate will be pushed out or relegated to a symbolic role. What happens? In 90% of cases, the founder takes the deal. Not because he doesn't care, he does. He'll even feel genuine guilt. But when forced to choose between loyalty to his friend and $40 million, human nature has a predictable winner. He'll rationalize it afterward, tell himself the roommate will be fine, but this is just business, that his friend would do the same thing. And here's the darkest part. He's probably right about that last one. This is the power dynamic that governs every human relationship, whether people admit it or not. Affection, loyalty, gratitude are variables. Material interest is a constant. When you understand this, you stop being surprised by betrayal. More important, you stop making strategic decisions based on how people feel about you. Weak people build their security on emotional bonds. They believe that if they're good enough, loyal enough, valuable enough, in relationship terms, they'll be protected. Then they're devastated when someone they trusted chooses their own interests over the relationship. They take it personally. They think something is wrong with them or with the other person. Powerful people build their security on aligned interests. They understand that loyalty isn't about emotion, it's about making betrayal more costly than cooperation. They don't ask, does this person like me? They ask, does this person benefit more from keeping me empowered or from seeing me fall? This is why Machiavelli advised princes to be feared rather than loved if they couldn't be both. Love is conditional on emotion. Fear is conditional on power. Emotions are unstable. Power dynamics are predictable. Now, before you think this means you should trust no one and operate in pure self-interest, understand the second layer. Machiavelli wasn't advocating for pointless cruelty or paranoid isolation. He was advocating for clear vision. When you understand that humans operate primarily on material incentive rather than emotional connection, you don't become cynical. You become strategic. You structure relationships so that mutual benefit is obvious and affection is costly. You don't rely on someone's goodwill when you can align their incentives with your goals. You don't build partnerships on sentiment when you can build them on mutual necessity. Most people stop here. They think understanding human nature's material bases is enough. But that's why they fail. There's a second layer that's even more critical to mastering power dynamics. Principle 2. People judge by appearances and outcomes, never by the means used to achieve them. Machiavelli observes something that modern society desperately tries to deny. Morality is performative, not substantive. People don't actually care how you achieved your position. They care that you hold it. The methods you use to win become irrelevant the moment you secure victory. This is the dark psychology principle that separates those who understand perception from those who are enslaved by it. You've been taught that process matters, that how you win is as important as winning itself, that people will judge you harshly if you use ruthless tactics. This is false. People judge you based on whether you're ascending or descending in social hierarchy. Here's the mechanism. Human brains are wired to align with power, not with principle. When someone rises to dominance through questionable means, there's a brief window where others might criticize the methods. But once the position is secured, something shifts in collective perception. The narrative retrofits itself. The ruthless tactics become strategic brilliance. The betrayals become necessary decisions. The manipulation becomes political savvy. Watch how this unfolds in any industry. A corporate executive climbs a ladder by taking credit for subordinates' work, sabotaging rivals, and making backroom deals that undermine company culture. While he's mid-level, people whisper about his tactics. Some refuse to work with him. Others warn newcomers to watch out. But then he becomes CEO of what happens to the narrative. Those same critics now call him a decisive leader who knows how to play the game. The people he betrayed on the way up suddenly act like they were always supporters, hoping to get close to power. New employees hear stories about his controversial but effective rise and feel admiration, not disgust. The board praises his whatever-it-takes mentality. The methods didn't change. The perception changed because the outcome changed. This is why Machiavelli wrote that a prince must learn how not to be good, not because goodness is weakness, but because people don't actually reward goodness, they reward results. If you limit yourself to conventionally moral methods while your competitors use every available tool, you will lose. And when you lose, nobody will praise your integrity, they'll call you naive. The most dangerous part of this principle is that it applies retroactively. Winners get to rewrite their own history. Losers have their history written for them. Jeff Bezos can engage in cutthroat business practices that destroyed countless competitors, and he's celebrated as an innovator. A failed entrepreneur who used identical tactics is called unethical. The difference isn't the ethics, it's the outcome. If you're still watching, you're already ahead of 90% who clicked away because this makes them uncomfortable. Those people will continue believing that good intentions and ethical behavior are sufficient for success. They'll continue being confused when less scrupulous competitors outmaneuver them. They'll continue losing while feeling morally superior about it. But you're different. You're willing to see the game as it actually exists, not as you wish it would be. Now, here's how you operationalize this understanding. You don't abandon ethics entirely that creates unnecessary enemies and undermines long-term stability. What you do is separate your private ethics from your public strategy. Internally, you have principles that guide your decisions. Externally, you focus entirely on optics and outcomes. This means, when you make a difficult decision firing someone, pivoting away from a partnership, choosing profit over principle, you don't apologize or over-explain. You control the narrative around results. This position required a new direction. We're optimizing for long-term sustainability. Sometimes tough calls separate good leaders from great ones. Notice what you're not doing, defending your morality. Because the moment you defend your morality, you've accepted the frame that your morality is in question. Powerful people don't defend their character. They demonstrate their effectiveness and let outcomes speak. The next principle is where it gets truly dangerous, because it reveals not just how others perceive you, but how you can actively reshape their perception through understanding a darker aspect of human psychology. Principle 3. Men must either be caressed or destroyed. They will avenge minor injuries, but cannot avenge major ones. This is where most people's understanding of power dynamics completely breaks down. They think in terms of fairness and proportional response. Someone wrongs them, they retaliate proportionally. Someone threatens them, they push back moderately. This middle path feels ethical and reasonable. It's also the fastest way to create powerful enemies, who will systematically destroy you. Machiavelli understood something about human psychology that modern conflict resolution training deliberately obscures. There is no safe middle ground with threats. When you injure someone but leave them capable of retaliation, you've created an enemy with motivation and means. When you eliminate someone's ability to threaten you, you've created a cautionary tale for others. The psychological principle here is about the relationship between harm and capability. Minor harm creates resentment without fear. Major harm creates fear without the capability for revenge. Moderate harm, the kind that feels fair and measured, creates the worst possible combination. Burning resentment plus intact ability to retaliate. Let me show you where this plays out constantly. You have a colleague who's been undermining you in meetings, spreading rumors, positioning themselves for a promotion that should be yours. You have evidence. You confront them moderately. You mention it to your boss in passing. You push back in one meeting. You think you're handling it appropriately, being professional, not escalating unnecessarily. What actually happens? You've signaled that you know about their behavior and you're willing to oppose them, but you haven't neutralized their ability to hurt you. Now they know you're a threat, and they escalate. They stop being subtle. They actively campaign against you. They're motivated by anger at your pushback, and they still have all their political capital intact to use against you. Within months, either you're marginalized or you're forced into a full conflict you're not prepared for because you tried to take the reasonable middle path. Contrast this with two different approaches. First approach, you completely ignore the minor provocations. You act like their attempts to undermine you don't even register. This is the caress option. You give them no enemy to rally against, no conflict to escalate. Often they'll move on to easier targets. You haven't made a friend, but you haven't created a motivated enemy. Second approach, you document everything systematically. You build an airtight case. You wait for the perfect moment. Then you go to leadership with irrefutable evidence and a clear narrative about how this person's behavior threatens team performance. You don't ask for a moderate response. You make it clear that anything less than removing this person from their position puts leadership in a compromised position. This is the destroy option. You eliminate their platform and credibility in one decisive move. Notice what both approaches have in common. They avoid the middle ground where you've provoked retaliation without preventing it. This is where you need to be careful, because understanding this principle can make you too quick to escalate. The point isn't to destroy everyone who opposes you. That creates chaos and makes you the villain in every narrative. The point is to recognize that once you decide someone is a genuine threat, half measures are the most dangerous option available. Weak people think restraint in conflict is virtue. Powerful people understand restraint in conflict as risk assessment. The question isn't, is it morally right to destroy this person's position? The question is, have I decided this person is enough of a threat to warrant action? And if so, am I committed to complete action? Most of your conflicts should never reach the action stage. You should be securing your position, building alliances, and creating aligned interests so that potential threats see cooperation as more beneficial than opposition. But when someone persists in threatening your position despite those incentives, you cannot afford measured responses. This separates people who understand power from people who just read about it. Theory says be proportional. Reality says be decisive or be absent. There is no middle ground where you're both ethical and safe. But knowing these principles isn't enough. You need to understand how they combine into a unified strategy for reading and responding to human nature. Principle for everyone sees what you appear to be, few experience what you really are. And those few will not dare oppose the many who have the majesty of the state to defend them. This is the final and most powerful principle because it reveals the fundamental asymmetry in human social dynamics. Perception dominates reality for everyone except those in your immediate inner circle. And even they are constrained by what the majority believes about you. Machiavelli wrote this as advice to princes, but the principle scales to every level of social hierarchy. The persona you project to the 99% matters infinitely more than the reality known by the 1%. And that 1%, your inner circle who sees behind the performance, cannot effectively challenge the public narrative without destroying their own position adjacent to yours. This is the mechanism that allows powerful people to maintain completely contradictory public and private personas. Jeff Bezos can be ruthless in business while being lauded for customer obsession. Political leaders can be corrupt in private while maintaining reputations for integrity. CEOs can be tyrants to their inner circle while being praised as visionary. Leaders by the public. The reason this works isn't that people are stupid, it's that people lack access. 99% of people who form opinions about you will never spend significant private time with you. They'll judge based on controlled presentations, how you perform in public settings, what you say in crafted communications, what your public achievements suggest about your character. And here's what Machiavelli never explicitly wrote, but understood completely. You can actively construct this perception independent of your reality. This is where it transcends observation and becomes applicable power strategy. You don't wait for people to form impressions of you. You deliberately architect what they see. Not through deception that's fragile and requires constant maintenance. Through strategic presentation of genuine attributes while controlling visibility of contradictions. You want to be seen as principled. Publicly, take a stand on an issue where principle and self-interest align. You want to be seen as loyal. Publicly, defend someone when defending them is strategically advantageous. You want to be seen as decisive. Publicly make bold calls that you've already de-risked through private preparation. Notice what you're doing. You're not fabricating qualities you don't have. You're controlling which real qualities are visible and in what context. This is sustainable because it's not line, it's editing. The inner circle that sees your full complexity can't challenge this public narrative without admitting their own complicity in your rise. They're implicated in your success. Exposing your contradictions means exposing their own willingness to overlook those contradictions for their own benefit. Their silence isn't loyalty, it's self-preservation. This is the architecture of power that people with conscience find most disturbing. It means that public reputation is engineered, not earned. It means that the person lauded for integrity might be calculating. It means you can't trust public personas to reflect private reality. But here's the choice you face. You can be disturbed by this, or you can use it. While you're judging others for managing their image, they're rising above you because they understand that power operates on perception. You can maintain your authenticity and watch more strategic people control the narrative. Or you can recognize that everyone is performing, you're just doing it unconsciously and therefore badly. The world is divided into players and pieces, into those who architect how they're perceived and those who hope their authentic self will be accurately recognized. Which one will you be? Let's synthesize what these 4 principles create when you understand them as a unified system for navigating human nature. First principle: humans operate on material interest over emotional connection. This means you structure your relationships around aligned incentives, not sentiment. Second principle: people judge by outcomes and appearances, not methods. This means you focus on results and control the narrative, not on defending your process. Third principle: you either neutralize threats completely or you don't engage them at all. This means you avoid the dangerous middle ground of provoking enemies without preventing retaliation. Fourth principle: public perception dominates private reality for the vast majority. This means you deliberately architect how you're seen rather than hoping your authentic self will be accurately perceived. Together, these principles form a framework for power dynamics that operates independent of morality. This makes people uncomfortable because we're taught that ethics and strategy should be aligned. But Machiavelli's brutal truth is simpler. Ethics and strategy operate on different planes. You can have personal ethics that guide your private decisions while recognizing that public success requires understanding the amoral mechanics of human nature. Now, some will say this is manipulation, that treating relationships as strategic rather than purely emotional is cold and calculating, that focusing on perception is dishonest, that neutralizing threats completely is excessive. But power doesn't care about labels. The question isn't whether these principles are nice. The question is whether they're accurate. And everywhere you look, from corporate boardrooms to political campaigns to social dynamics, you see these principles operating. The only variable is whether you're conscious of them. The people who succeed aren't necessarily the smartest or hardest working. They're the ones who understand that human nature has patterns that can be predicted and leveraged. They stop being surprised when people act in their self. They stop being confused when good intentions don't prevent bad outcomes. They stop waiting for fairness or justice or recognition and start architecting the conditions that produce their desired results. This is what separates those who complain about how the world works from those who use how the world works. One group thinks power should operate on different principles. The other group recognizes that power operates on these principles whether we approve or not, so we might as well understand them. You now know what 99% of people will never understand, not because they lack access to this information, but because they lack the willingness to accept what it reveals about human nature and about themselves. The question is, what will you do with this knowledge? Here's how you implement these principles starting immediately. First, audit your current relationships through the lens of aligned interests rather than emotional connection. For each important relationship in your life, professional partnerships, key friendships, romantic relationships, ask yourself, if this person's material interests changed, would this relationship survive? If the answer is no, you're operating on unstable ground. Start structuring situations where their success and yours are interdependent, not just emotionally connected. Second, control your narrative deliberately. This week, identify one quality you want to be known for in your professional or social environment. Then find one opportunity to demonstrate that quality publicly in a context where it aligns with your actual interests. Don't announce your values, demonstrate them strategically when the demonstration serves you. Let others draw conclusions. Third, evaluate current conflicts using the caress or destroy framework. You probably have someone in your life who's a minor, persistent irritant. Make a decision. Either completely ignore their provocations and give them no enemy to fight, or document their behavior systematically and prepare to escalate decisively if they cross a clear line. Stop existing in the dangerous middle ground of occasional pushback. Fourth, practice strategic opacity. Stop over-explaining your decisions, your motivations, your reasoning. When you make a choice that others might question, provide the minimum necessary justification focused on outcomes. This is the direction we're taking. This decision serves our strategic goals. I've evaluated the options and this is optimal. Notice you're not defending your character or inviting debate about your process. Fifth, build your inner circle carefully. Identify the few people who will have access to your full complexity, your doubts, your calculations, your contradictions. These should be people whose interests are so aligned with yours that exposing you would damage them. Everyone else stays outside this circle and sees only the curated version. These aren't personality changes. These are strategic adjustments to how you operate in a world governed by the principles Machiavelli documented. You're not becoming a different person. You're becoming conscious of dynamics that were always operating, and learning to navigate them with intention, instead of naivety, and now understand something that most people will spend their entire lives never grasping. Human nature operates on predictable principles that have nothing to do with what we're taught humans should be. This knowledge is the difference between being surprised by betrayal and expecting it, between being outmaneuvered and staying 3 steps ahead, between hoping for recognition and architecting your rise. But here's the reality. Most people who watch this video will do nothing with it. They'll feel uncomfortable. They'll think, this is interesting, but I could never actually operate this way. They'll go back to hoping that being good and working hard will be enough, and they'll continue wondering why less principled people keep rising above them. That's why they stay powerless. If this resonates with a part of you that's tired of playing by rules that only constrain you while others ignore them freely, you recognize that understanding power is not the same as being corrupted by it, then you know what to do. This channel exists for people who are willing to see reality clearly and operate accordingly. The choice is yours. But remember, ignorance is not bliss, it's slavery. You can pretend human nature works differently than it does, or you can master the principles that actually govern behavior. One path leaves you at the mercy of those who understand these dynamics. The other path puts you in control. The game is already being played. The only question is whether you're a player or a piece.